On today's Crosstalk phone-in, we're talking about the fact that some people want the legal hunting age lowered to 12 in Newfoundland and Labrador with supervision. We've got two of those people joining us today in our Corner Brook studio. Wendell Smith, the president of the Upper Humber Rod and Gun Association. Hello to you, Wendell.
Hello.
And here in St. John's, Barry Fordham, who's a spokesperson for the Newfoundland Federation of Hunters and Anglers. Hello to you, Barry.
Hello.
All right, let's get right to it and try to explain to our audience the changes that you two are looking for. When it comes to calling for the legal hunting age, Barry, to be reduced to the age of 12, where does it stand right now?
Right now, the legal hunting age for small game is 16 years of age, and the legal hunting age for big game is 18 years of age.
And where would you like to see those numbers moved?
We would like to see the age for small game reduced to 12 years of age, and the age limit for big game to be reduced to 14 years of age.
And so, Wendell, with the small game license, what would a 12-year-old hunter be able to take?
They'd be able to take small game up to, I think, coyote. Rabbits, ptarmigan, grouse would be under these licenses as well.
And if you had your wishes for the big game license, you'd have that starting at age 14. So a 14-year-old could go out and shoot a moose?
Yes, that's right. Moose, caribou, black bear, any of these species would be under the big game jurisdiction.
All with supervision, right? Like that's
absolutely
that's
yes.
A given here.
That's a given. Yes. This what we're implementing here, or trying to get the government to look at, is a program with adult supervision at all times, and I can't stress that enough. The kids have to go through an education program and be mentored, and time at the range, time in school. Sitting down, getting these programs endorsed.
And we'll get into this more in the time ahead on the program, but the reason that the two of you are calling for this sort of change is to increase skills and also to generate more interest in outdoor life. So we will certainly talk about that for sure. Our question on Crosstalk, as we open up the phone lines for you, our listeners, to phone in with your opinions: should the legal hunting age be lowered to 12 in Newfoundland and Labrador with supervision? The numbers for you, 722-7111 in the St. John's area, or toll-free 1-800-563-8255. You can also send a tweet at CBC Crosstalk, and we're on the Facebook page for CBC in Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm Ramona Deering in St. John's, and this is the Crosstalk phone-in on Radio Noon. Today we're asking if the legal hunting age should be dropped to 12 with supervision. That is what our guests would like to see for small game hunters. Right now, small game hunters have to be at least 16 years old. And as for big game hunters, they'd like to see the legal age dropped to 14 from 18. Barry Fordham is a spokesperson for the Newfoundland Federation of Hunters and Anglers. He's here in our St. John studio. And in Corner Brook, Wendell Smith, the president of the Upper Humber Rod and Gun Association. They believe that dropping the legal hunting age to 12 would help develop skills and interest. What do you think? Should the legal hunting age be dropped to 12? The numbers to call, 722-7111 or 1-800-563-8255. That's 722-7111 or 1-800-563-8255. If you're trying to get through on the phone lines now and you're having trouble, that's because they are already blocked. As soon as we get a clearing, I will let you know for sure. In the meantime, you can send us a tweet at CBC Crosstalk if you happen to be on Twitter. And we're also on the Facebook page for CBC in Newfoundland and Labrador. Again, today's question: should the legal hunting age be dropped to 12? All right, just before we get to those phone lines, Barry Fordham, give me your rationale for supporting this change. Small game hunters, minimum required age in your ideal world would be 12. Right now it stands at 16. Why would you call for that sort of dropping of the age? It's a pretty big difference.
It is a big difference. However, what's a bigger difference is today's youth. Today's youth want to be hands-on. When I was growing up back in the day, I was quite satisfied to tag along and just be an observer with most things that there was. Today's youth, though, want to be hands-on. If they can't have hands-on participation, they may lose interest in it and move on to something else.
But is that enough of a justification for putting guns in their hands?
Okay, well, we're not putting the gun in the hand, of course. We'll talk about that. Also, though, we want to share in the family tradition of hunting itself, to be able to take our youth off, our kids off into the country to hunt, fish, whatever it may be. In this case, it's hunting, to be able to create and have everlasting memories.
And so how is it that you're saying the guns would not be in children's hands?
Okay, what we're saying is that we would follow the rest of the provinces in Canada right now at the age of 12. What they do is they have direct supervised adult supervision. They also, though, what it is that the adult or the mom or dad carries the firearm in the field for the youth. Only when the game is spotted and the youth is ready to shoot is the youth given the firearm to shoot. Up to the point when the game is retrieved, that is when the firearm will be given back to the adult to carry in the field. The adult is a mentor, and as a mentor, then the adult does not hunt.
And Wendell Smith, Barry just mentioned an important point, and that's what's happening in other provinces. So how many other provinces have adopted this change of dropping the legal hunting age to 12 with supervision?
We are the last province in the country. BC has dropped theirs to as low as 10 years old.
Really?
And all the other provinces are on line with 12 years old for small game.
Okay. And where does our Environment Minister, Tom Henderson, stand on this? Because he's the man who would be responsible, his department, for bringing in those changes. Barry, is he receptive to this idea?
He is receptive. CBC here and now has contacted him from the story we did just last week, and he said that he is considering it, and it seems that he may be getting close to getting up on top of the fence. We're hoping that he's going to get on the fence and jump over the other side to make this decision to come through, make our youth in Newfoundland and Labrador the same as all the rest of the youth in the rest of Canada. There is no difference in our youth than the rest of Canada.
All right. And thank you, too, for laying out your perspectives on this. Let's hear from our listeners. The question on Crosstalk this afternoon: should the legal hunting age be dropped to 12? Our guests in our Corner Brook studio this afternoon, Wendell Smith, the president of the Upper Humber Rod and Gun Association, and Barry Fordham, who's a spokesperson for the Newfoundland Federation of Hunters and Anglers. As I said, as soon as we get more phone lines open, I'll give out the numbers for you again. In the meantime, you can tweet me. Lots of people are doing that at CBC Crosstalk. And I suspect that there's a bit of a conversation going on the Facebook page for CBC in Newfoundland and Labrador as well. Tony Chubbs, our first caller, on the line from Happy Valley Goose Bay. Hello, Tony.
Good day, Ramona. Good day to your guests there, Wendell and Barry.
Thank you.
How you doing, Tony?
Good.
So, Tony, you're the president of the Labrador Hunting and Fishing Association?
Yes.
Okay.
We represent in Labrador here approximately 250 members, of which we have both Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal members here. I'd just like to point to that our association has also contacted the Provincial Government Wildlife Division and provided our support for the lowering of the hunting age down to 12. And this basically does what the two gentlemen there in your studio today have pointed out, is that the rest of the provinces have already done this. Our regulations within the Wildlife Act are antiquated, and they just need to be readjusted to bring in line with the rest of Canada. And
have there been any tragedies or close calls as a result of those changes?
No, I don't think there's any reason for any alarm here with the conditions that are placed on these types of licenses with regards to mentoring and adult supervision. I'd just like to point out, too, as well, that the Federal Government Firearms Act already provides this provision, so it's legal for people age 12 and over to obtain a firearms license under federal legislation. So our provincial legislation is just lagging behind.
All right, Tony, thanks a lot for the call. Appreciate it.
Just one more comment, too, as well. The provincial government actually promotes a youth hunting and fishing exchange program, and that's open for youth age 12 to 17. So the provincial government is already promoting youth hunting at age 12. Just we can't do it within the current confines of the regulations that we have now. And they need to be changed.
Yeah, so they can't obviously practice shooting through that program right now.
Sure, they can under the Federal Firearms Act. They can.
Oh, okay. And are they?
It's the hunting portion that's governed provincially that prevents them from carrying a firearm in the field.
So Barry Fordham, are they actually using guns in this program? The youngsters, 12-year-olds? They probably don't want to be called youngsters.
The youth. I think under the Firearms Act, it states that anybody over the age of 12 can apply for a firearms license. And I think one side of it, I'm not going to debate the Firearms Act, but I think one side of it would pertain to somebody who would be a youth who would be engaged in a target shooting competition team. There are certain provisions for that, as well as youth that are Aboriginal.
Okay. Thanks again, Tony. Appreciate it.
Sure.
We are getting so much reaction on Twitter. I'll try to keep up with it all. Here's one from Donna. You can follow her at DonnaCarroll83. She says, yes, let's lower hunting ages. Let's get them interested in safe gun use and hunting. Now, I should be fair and say that at least so far, most of the tweets are coming out opposed to people as young as 12 being able to go hunting. Here's a tweet from Robert. You can follow him at Balboa709. He says, what good will that do? A few more dollars for Newfoundland, but the cost is 12-year-olds wielding guns in the woods. Do you want to respond to that, Wendell? That concern?
It's like Barry said earlier, a 12-year-old will not be taking the gun in his possession until he sees the actual game that has to be harvested. And until the adult or mentor at that particular time also agrees that that is game that has to be harvested. And up until that point in time, the youth don't touch that firearm.
All right. Harvested is another word for killed, I take it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's go to our next caller, Dan Whalen, who's phoning in from Little Rapids, that is. Hi, Dan.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
Good. Would you lower the legal hunting age or keep it where it is?
Support it 100%. I missed the opportunity of my children taking them in the woods when they were young, but now they return in the fall of the year and hunt with me.
But now, why wouldn't they?
That I lost years ago would be well cherished. Also, we got to emphasize the education program. It's not give a rifle to a youth with an adult and go out and do the hunting. This education program got to be all part and parcel.
But now, why do you say you missed out on having your kids in the woods with you? They wouldn't tag along with you?
Well, they did tag along with me, but the bonding was there. But the actual, I don't think they were ever there when I harvested an animal. But they would have been if the provision was there for them to help with the hunt or be with the hunt. And
so, do they hunt themselves now?
Yes, they do. And
they do.
They thoroughly enjoy it.
Because
just one.
Sure.
They're a little bit young, 23 and 30. But I know there's a lot of youth in Newfoundland who got no interest because they lost this first step of it. If you understand what I'm saying, the starting at young to do this thing.
Right.
But again, with the education program taking guns around, someone who's 30 years old and wants to go hunting got to do an education program also. We must remember that. They got to, before they're allowed a license, they got to do in-school courses.
Wendell, what's your sense? Are there fewer hunters in Newfoundland and Labrador these days?
Yes, indeed. According to Statistics Canada, that is true right across the country. All the hunting activity across the whole North America, in fact, is down. So all these programs started implementing out west in a program to try to alter the trend of youth getting away from the hunting activities. There was lots of argument that stated that the wildlife across the country in certain jurisdictions was overrun, and they needed young hunters to get in to harvest these wildlife species in order to keep them under manageable control.
Is the issue really the age for young hunters, or is the issue video games and cell phones and computers?
A lot of the activity now, because kids can't participate fully in the hunting sports and shooting sports, is not so much the shooting sports, but mostly hunting sports, is they can't participate fully. In other words, they can't actually help with the actual harvest of that particular game. So as a result, they're finding other things to do. They're out playing with their computer games and Xboxes and all these kind of things. And as they progress from their high school years into college and university, the likelihood that they will return or come back to enter the hunting and shooting sports is very minimal.
Dan, I appreciate the call. Thank you.
One further comment.
Yep, quickly, please.
On a monetary end of it, the outfitters could benefit from this too. advertising that their clients from anywhere in the world can come with their children. So right now, as far as I know, there was a problem last fall, and some outfitters complained that they lost a lot of license sales because children couldn't be accompanied.
So the children, for outfitters, the children are not allowed to come along at all? Is that the case?
Yeah, they can come along, but they're not allowed to participate in the hunt.
Right, they can't pull the trigger.
If they can
can't
sell a
handle the
license
gun.
to a father with a child, it'd be beneficial for the outfitters and the economy.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again, Don.
Thank you very much.
Dan, that is. Sorry about that.
No, not a problem.
The question on Crosstalk this afternoon, should the legal hunting age be dropped to 12? That's what my guests on the program today would like to see. That is for small game hunters. They'd like to see the legal age for big game hunters drop to 14. Those ages right now stand at 18 and 16. In our Corner Brook studio this afternoon, Wendell Smith. He's the president of the Upper Humber Rod and Gun Association. And here in St. John's, Barry Fordham, a spokesperson for the Newfoundland Federation of Hunters and Anglers. And gentlemen, I should let you know that we've got many comments on the Facebook page for CBC in Newfoundland and Labrador. And the overwhelming majority of those comments are no, the age should not be dropped to 12 for the legal hunting age. All right, I go back to the phone lines, and again, as soon as we get a line clear, I'll give out the numbers again for you. Edward Smith is our next caller, and he's on the line from Conception Bay South. Hi, Edward.
How you doing, Ramona?
Good, good. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I'd like to commend the two gentlemen there first and foremost, and wish them the best, because this is something that's very near and dear to my heart. One of the things that I'd like to bring up very specifically is everybody's concerned about safety. Every hunter out there right now is concerned about safety. And as it stands right now, there is a 2-day course that everybody takes then before they can go into the field. However, what we're suggesting is let's bring it back to 12 so that we can mentor these children so they have an extended period of time to have an education program. This program is not only going to be make it safer for youth in the future, but allow them to have a one-on-one mentor that will teach them ethics, they'll teach them safety, it'll teach them responsibility, and it will show them exactly what what we're supposed to do. I mean, this is a program that protects the youth as much as it encourages them.
But don't you think it's possible to achieve all of those things the way things stand right now? The difference being that young hunters would not be pulling the trigger or handling the guns?
Well, think about it this way, Ramona. You can read about driving all you want. Until you get behind the wheel, you don't know exactly what you're doing. So you have to take...
You have to be 16 to drive, so some people might be saying...
Oh, exactly. But
maybe 12's a bit too young to be handling a gun.
If it was too young to be handling a firearm, then the rest of the provinces in Canada and the rest of the states in the United States wouldn't have gone. There are some states in the United States that are as low as 8. To fire at big game. So this is a program where we encourage children to, not, and we kind of stop saying children. I mean, they're youth. These guys and girls are mature enough at that stage where we can take them into the classroom. We can show them exactly what needs to be done, what safety steps that need to be taken, and we can actually get them into the range and actually show them how far that gun could shoot, how dangerous it can be, and give them the respect that they need. I mean, to just offer a firearm to a child at age 16 and say, here you go, you're on your own, have fun, is irresponsible. And what we're trying to do is make this more responsible for everybody involved.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
All right, our next caller, well known to our listeners. He's been a guest on Radio Noon Crosstalk many times. He's Wayne Holloway. He's an outfitter, and he's on the line from Paradise. How are you today, Wayne?
I'm great today, Ramona. How are you?
Good, good.
And hi to Wendell and Barry, and thank you for taking the initiative to move this forward. In March last year, the Wildlife Federation and the Outfitters Association submitted a report to government with the exact recommendations that the fellows are advocating for today. That is, dropping the age for hunting small game to 12 and for big game to 16, in accompaniment of course, an adult mentor. And this has been done in other jurisdictions, Ramona and listeners, and And the research that we did, we could not find any information that would suggest that there's added danger at all in any of the jurisdictions by doing what we're advocating for here. So I can understand, why people might be concerned, but I think to some extent the concern is not well-founded and certainly not supported by data from what's happened elsewhere. Notwithstanding, if you have a concern, I'd like to hear it, which is a problem with the naysayers who are submitting their input on Twitter, Ramona. We don't know what the rationale is for not supporting the initiative. I'd certainly like to know it and to see if it has a reasonable foundation rather than just a no, we don't want it done.
Yeah, those are the comments coming in on the Facebook page for CBC in Newfoundland and Labrador. But I'm getting quite a few tweets from people with concerns about lowering the legal hunting age to 12.
Yes, but we're unable to hear what these concerns are and to be able to determine how the validity of them or whether or not there is a counter position, I guess, that could be advanced.
Yeah, well, I've been reading as many as I can on the air, and I will continue to do so.
Yes, I'd like to see a printout of that where possible of them, though, just to get an indication. But anyway, this is an important issue here for...
Follow them on our website, cbc.ca/radionoonnl.
Okay, that's great. Some rationale for this, as the guys indicated here, is additional skills development for youth hunters and for those especially who want to hang in there and hunt for the rest of their life while it's able to be done. But it also adds other things. It further encourages outdoor activities, Ramona, and we all know that our children here are lacking in the time they spend outdoors, certainly lacking in the physical exercise that's available through hunting. So we need to come up with every which way we can to encourage our children to be outdoors and to be exercising. But it also encourages the taking of responsibility, and that can be done under the guidance of the mentors that the guys are suggesting. Like at every level, children can be given a little bit of responsibility. And when they go out with their dads or their mentor to hunt, inherent in that activity is a responsibility for environmental protection, for example, respect for the game, and so on. And they will get that from their mentor. As it is now, when a youth reaches the age of 16, without any mentor, without having had any other prior experience of hunting, he's permitted to go and hunt by himself. And the same thing for big game hunters. Once they reach the age of 18, they're entitled to hunt big game, not having spent one day traveling the wilderness prior to that. So I think this is a fantastic program. Notwithstanding, we understand, people have some concerns with safety and so on, but the reality is that in every other jurisdiction where age limits have been lowered, there is no data to support any furthering of risk to either the hunter or the youth or his companion or to the public. So unless somebody has a report to that shows otherwise, which I would surely be interested in, I think the issue of safety and so on it's a perceived one, but the data doesn't support that it's a reality.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks a lot for the call, Wayne.
Thank you, Ramona, and thanks, guys. Keep up the effort here. I think it is a worthwhile project, and hopefully we can get this move forward. But at the same time, we have to respect the public input and see where it takes us. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne.
Here's a tweet that came in from T.A. Loeffler to @CBC Crosstalk. She's a professor at Memorial University and a very, very well-known mountain climber. She says, growing up in a hunting family and valuing things that get children outdoors, I can see allowing supervised hunting for 12-year-olds. Now, that's in contrast to another tweet that's come in from Everett Chen to @CBC Crosstalk. Everett says, besides safety, children are mentally not mature. Using a gun may influence their ways of thinking, making them aggressive. What are your thoughts on that, Wendell?
I totally disagree with that. I've seen the kids mentored at the youth skills event. They show a lot of maturity, a lot of respect, and they responsibility towards the activities in which they are obtaining, right? So I totally disagree with that statement.
And what do you think, Barry Fordham, about a concern that it could make young people more aggressive if they're using guns and killing animals with them?
I think that we have to clearly define the issue and stick with the issue. I think that there's too much hysteria. I think there's too much paranoia. I think there's too much bad perception about guns and kids getting guns and going crazy and this and that and everything else. We are talking about hunting here in Newfoundland and Labrador. We're not talking about somebody going out into the university and doing God knows what. We're not talking about going out to a confectionery store. We're not talking about giving the kid the gun to shoot somebody else or be aggressive. We are talking about a controlled situation. We are talking solely about hunting.
But you can understand, given some of the tragedies that we've seen recently, that some people might be concerned that being around guns...
Absolutely, but again, I got to stress,
horrible ways.
I got to stress, that's not hunting. That is not hunting. And that is available. There was nothing, just because the age difference may drop to take a youth out to go hunting doesn't mean that that's not going to prevent some youth or anybody else here in this great province of ours from going into mom or dad's locker and getting the gun and going out and doing that the exact same thing, because that's a very real possibility of today's society.
Yeah.
We're not talking about, that's not hunting.
All right, so the question, if you're just tuning in to Radio Noon Crosstalk, we're at 1 minute before 1 on the island. It's 29 minutes after 12 in most parts of Labrador. And the question that we're asking, should the legal hunting age be dropped to 12? Our guests in studio this afternoon both support that change. Wendell Smith is in Corner Brook. He's the president of the Upper Humber Rod and Gun Association. And here in St. John's, Barry Fordham, who's the spokesperson for the Newfoundland Federation of Hunters and Anglers. I'm going to give out the phone numbers for you, but our lines are still very, very busy, but I just want you to know that the phone numbers do exist, and you can keep trying if you want. As soon as I see it clearing, I'll let you know. 722-7111 or 1-800-563-8255. People are also getting through on the Facebook page for CBC in Newfoundland and Labrador, and all kinds of tweets are coming in to @CBC Crosstalk. All right, our next caller this afternoon, Ron Hicks, who's phoning in from Grand Falls, Windsor. Thanks for the call, Ron.
Oh, you're so welcome, Ramona. Yes, I must also add, calling as president of the Newfoundland and Labrador Fitters Association, and just listening to Wayne, actually, and as Wayne indicated, we certainly have put a request before government in collaboration with the Newfoundland and Labrador Wildlife Federation just over a year ago, and it's something that we've been kind of advocating for a few years, but certainly... there's been a bit of a push on in recent months, and because it's of the importance. I mean, obviously, as many comments have been made, other jurisdictions across Canada, U.S., worldwide, and I tell you what, I have spoken to like-minded organizations worldwide on this very issue, and we are definitely in the dark ages in terms of our where we are on it. As has been said by a number of people, the number of youth participating in the culture of hunting is on the decline. And just that fact alone, with an older hunting population and with very few coming into the system, I tell you what, that's going to be needed just in the management of our populations in itself. That's a big part of the management plan is how much you can take out and there's certain carrying capacities for various management zones. We got to look at that from that aspect, notwithstanding the many other benefits, of incorporating our youth into these kind of activities and grooming them into it. And, I ask you the question, or your listeners the question, and it's been kind of stated many times already. What do you think is best? What is safest? Between the ages of 14 to 18, allow the youth to accompany an adult who is licensed and thereby develop respect for firearms and safe practices, develop appreciation for species hunted and good hunting ethics, things like, knowing your shot, ensuring you take sure shots or what have you. To me, that there's a more preferable approach than to wait until you're 18, take a two-day course, and at their own discretion, I'm going to start hunting now, but never hunted a day before. That makes little or no sense to me, and our association, our members actually. But this whole process of mentorship is wonderful, and I don't see where you could see the present approach is best.
Ron,
we feel there's no substitute actually for a mentorship program.
Ron, do you think there's a difference between how hunters see this issue and how people who don't hunt see this? Do you think we've got a dividing line there?
The thing is, as hunters, I guess we're a little more, not to be insulting or anything of that there, but just a little more we have a little better understanding around firearms and hunting and ethics and conservation and those kind of things. So our minds are kind of trained in that way, just because of participating. And whereas those who don't participate and kind of speaking from a distance and probably hadn't taken the time to be as well informed in terms of what other jurisdictions have considered and done, that's a possibility. But I will say this. This thing has been studied to death by other provinces and other states and countries worldwide, and I don't think we would want to insult all those studies and those other governments and leadership in other jurisdictions, but by negating all that's been done and considered. There's no reason why we should go alone on this as a province,
And we should just reiterate for those who didn't catch the beginning of the program that Newfoundland and Labrador is the only province in Canada that has not lowered the legal age to shoot small game to the age of 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, Ramona, is we're also a part of this here, at least from our proposal, is there certainly would be a firearm test done, whereas now that's not even part of the program. So that there would definitely, marksmanship would be a key factor, and understanding the firearms and ballistics and those kind of things is a very important component. So no, it'd be much enhanced to what's there now, and just on that note, and in addition to the mentorship program that accompanies that. So no, it's definitely be a huge step forward. I see no negatives in this, and speaking from a twofold point of view, actually from a resident point of view, which I am, and from as a president of a Newfoundland and Labrador Fitters Association. It certainly will be a win-win for all.
All right, thanks for the call, Ron.
Thank you. All the best. Bye-bye.
I think, in addition, what Ron is saying is that our association, along with other associations and clubs around the province, especially rod and gun clubs, will be looking to offer special opportunities to the youth who graduate from the firearm safety hunter education courses to fine-tune their shooting skills. You have to remember as well that a lot of these kids that are in the outdoors now already are using BB rifles and pellet rifles with direct supervision, of course.
And some of them are doing it without supervision.
Yeah,
right?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
I'd be naive to say no.
Barry, here's a comment that is directed toward you. It comes in from Michael Ludi, who sent this in on Twitter to @CBC Crosstalk. He's echoing some words that you said just a few minutes ago. His question for you: so, if we disagree with kids shooting guns at the age of 12, are we hysterical and paranoid?
No, not at all. Not at all. But I think what I meant in saying that is that the first thing that comes to people's minds who are non-hunters is that may be a thing that could come into the kid's mind. We have a lot of the responses that we have heard, and everybody's entitled to their opinion, of course, but a lot of the responses we've heard come from what happens in the States, comes from what happens everywhere else, and different scenarios that might happen. And somebody said last night, debating with somebody that, there was a kid that got at the gun in the dad's house and somebody got shot. And again, I say that's not hunting. So we have to be very careful and stipulate the difference between hunting and all the rest of everything else that happens, because that's what produces the what I call the hysteria or paranoia. And I'm not saying that the general public should not be alarmed or concerned about this issue. But we are trying to assure the public that this is a safe and honourable tradition that we have been doing for years and years and years. I started off when I was 7 or 8 years old with my dad. I continued on. My dad passed away early in life. I was honoured to have the opportunity to have a mentor to encourage me to go on forward, and to where I am today now, taking my own kids and other youth. And I'm a big advocate for kids in the outdoors, no matter what it is that they're doing, whether it be hunting, fishing.
And Barry, how old were you when you were actually pulling the trigger and shooting the animals?
You have to realize that it's illegal now, but back in the day it was socially acceptable. I would say I was probably about 6 years old when I fired my first .22 caliber rifle, and probably about 10 years old when I fired my first .410 small bore shotgun.
Just before I go back to the phone lines, I want to read part of a comment that came in on Facebook from Brian T.O. Davis, who says, and I'm just going to read in his words, I am Inuit Métis from Labrador. Growing up, I spent countless trips out on the land with my uncle and my father, learning to hunt, fish, and live off the land. When I was between 10 and 12 years of age, I began to hunt caribou with my uncle. He taught me to safely handle and shoot guns. It breaks my heart that with the current age restrictions by the Newfoundland government, I will be prevented from legally passing on these experiences and those parts of our culture to my own children. I learned not only to do these things on the land, but it taught me the responsibility for the land and wildlife and made me the man I am today. So again, that's a Facebook comment on the page for CBC Newfoundland and Labrador. Comes in from Brian T.O. Davis. All right, our next caller this afternoon, Hollis Yetman, on the line from Happy Valley Goose Bay. Hello, Hollis.
Hello, Ramona.
And your name is going to be familiar to an awful lot of people because you're a former conservation officer with the Newfoundland and Labrador government, right?
That's right. It is former. I've been away from that job for some time now, but still heavily involved in outdoor activities and also the vice president of the Labrador Hunting and Fishing Association at the moment. I love the comment you just read from Brian Davis because it says it all coming from Labrador. I can reiterate the things that he said, and I've grown up the same way. And as a conservation officer on the land for 20 years, I've seen an awful lot of that myself. We have a large Aboriginal population up here, of course, and youth and children are encouraged and go with their parents on the land to do the activities that are currently illegal in some respects by provincial laws. I think what we got here maybe is a rural-urban divide. I think if you polled rural areas and you polled urban areas, there'd probably be a pretty even split on who agrees and who disagrees with hunting at age 12. I think it's safe to say that the urban population would probably disagree, and the rural population who've grown up around hunting and providing fresh meat for their families would probably agree with it. And
that's probably a fair observation.
Yeah, I mean, put it in perspective. I mean, I don't live in downtown Toronto, and I don't know what it's like, but I would hazard a guess that if I lived there, I probably wouldn't let my 12 or 14-year-old child ride on a bus. But I'm guessing that somebody who's lived and grown up there all their lives, that's probably a fair bit to say that they'll take a bus and go downtown. And I mean, and I would be frightened to death to let my children do so. So that's sort of the analogy that I put on things.
All right, Hollis, appreciate the call. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Our phone lines are so busy this afternoon on Crosstalk. I'll give you the numbers, but they are still blocked. 722-7111 or 1-800-563-8255. Wilfred Bartlett is our next caller, phoning in from Green Bay South. Hi, Wilfred.
Hi, Ramona, and to Barry, and especially to Wendell. Wendell used to keep my electronics working when I was fishing.
How you doing?
Hi, Wilfred. How are you?
Not too bad. Bye for an offer.
There you go.
Yes,
Good to hear from you.
First thing I want to say, somebody phoned in, people at 12 years old not mentally mature, but I was more mentally mature when I was 12 than I am now because my brain is actually deteriorating very fast. I own my own gun, I would say, between 12 and 13 years old. I can't remember the age. I was very young, and I had a 22 Cooey I bought and I paid $5 for. And everybody in the community back there then, I mean, almost as soon as they could walk, was handling 22s, and that was the gun of choice because the ammunition was cheap, and you know, we didn't use it for hunting because we had very little to hunt out around the islands and that kind of stuff. The first thing I killed with my 22 was a bullbird, believe it or not, and I probably fired 50 shots before I killed one, but that's the way it was, right? And you know, we learned at an early age. Well, back then, there's no such a lot of the laws that we got now. There's no such thing as laws. That we just, before we entered Confederation, you could go and catch a fish or do what you like with no kind of license, no restriction, no nothing, and everything was plentiful. And it's only when we got the laws and that everything all of a sudden got changed things. And the one good thing about I see is to get more young people interested in the great outdoors, because there's no better activity in the world and being able to go in the woods, and even if you're going in just berry picking or whatever, and in the fall of the year to be able to take a gun and go in and shoot a rabbit or shoot a grouse or a partridge or whatever the case may be, right? And I mean, I only had one son, but I took him at a very early age. always took nothing with me, and fishing, that kind of stuff, and certainly grew up into being an avid hunter, more now so than I am, I guess. And I even had a young girl, I had a young daughter there back a few years, and I say when she was 10 and 12 years old, I used to take her when I used to go in bird hunting, or rabbit catching, whatever, and then she enjoyed it very much, and she got to learn the ways of the world, and I mean, at a very young age, she could take my four-wheel bike and go on in the woods anywhere, and with just as much, and be able to handle that bike just as well as I could, because I taught her the way to do it.
I'm going to have to leave it there, Wilfred, because we've got so many people trying to get through on the phone in this afternoon, but great to hear from you. Thanks.
Thanks,
Wilfred.
All right, Andrew May, our next caller, phoning in from Cornerbrook on the question on Crosstalk today. Should the legal age for hunting be dropped to 12 with supervision? Andrew, what are your thoughts?
Well, first off, I'm not a hunter. I have two boys who are younger than 12, and I spend a lot of time in the outdoors with them, doing various activities that require some skills. And I think there's a problem with young people today, and probably with the whole population, that many don't have any meaningful connection with nature. I think that having people with connections with nature makes for a more conservation-minded society, a better understanding of our role in nature, and I think this approach is consistent with that. And also, I don't see any evidence of safety issues.
Let me get your thoughts on this tweet that's come in from a person who tweets as No BS Thirsty, kind of a memorable Twitter handle there. I don't believe a 12-year-old is mature enough to be shooting guns or driving cars or whatever. They are 12. What would you say to that?
Well, I was thinking about things that I do with my own boys who are 7 and 9 in the woods. This spring, I got them both up to the top of the tablelands on skis. I've taken them in their own kayaks down the Humber River. They run a bearing on a compass in the woods, and they do that with me looking at them and teaching them. And it's from what has been described, we've got a situation here where kids over the age of 12 are being closely supervised by adults.
Yeah, Wendell, did you want to jump in on that concern from that listener that a 12-year-old is just not mature enough to be shooting guns?
Yeah, okay. I've witnessed the youth programs, through the wildlife division, through their youth skills in the past, and I've watched those kids immensely at the range, and how they pay attention to the schooling activity on their excuse me, on their skills as pertaining to hunting and on the land and all that stuff. And these kids portray a wonderful intake, if you will, of the ability to grasp these skills, and they go away from those outings with a good knowledge and an understanding of what it is that we're trying to teach them.
Andrew, I'm going to thank you for your call, but Barry, I know you want to jump in with a comment here because you've got a young son. Your son Shane, I believe, is 10.
Yes, my son Shane is 10. He started hunting with me, grouse hunting, when he was 3 years old, and my daughter also, Chloe, was 5 years old when she started. I'm also a volunteer shooting instructor with the bow program, stands for Becoming an Outdoors Woman, and the Youth Skills program for a number of years now.
This is bow and arrow?
The Becoming an Outdoors Woman is a number of course designed for women who want to further their outdoor pursuits. And I agree with what Wendell is saying. I mean, you see all these kids who probably never participated before and have a great time, doing it under safe and strict conditions. And this past year we had 53 participants, youth kids aged 12 to 17, girls and boys. I also want to say, with respect to the listener and to the general public, particularly with the non-hunting public, that is, and they have legitimate concerns, and I acknowledge that, and I respect that. But I have to say and ask you this question: Are our kids, our youth of Newfoundland and Labrador, are they any inferior? Are they any less smart? Are they anything less than the rest of the kids in Canada? And our answer has to be no. And we need to make this decision and give our kids a chance to participate in these outdoor activities.
Because everywhere else in Canada, it's already been changed. The legal hunting age has been dropped to the age of 12 with supervision.
With supervision.
All right. Shayna Lerman is our next caller, and she's phoning in from Whiteaway this afternoon. Hi, Shayna.
Hello, Ramona, and to your guests. I'd like to take this discussion on a slightly different tack and focus on that part of your interest in doing this has to do with raising up and teaching kids, the next generation of potential hunters, how to hunt in a safe and presumably humane way. That's correct? Is that part of your focus?
Yes, that's right.
Okay,
absolutely.
so here's where I want to go with this. I want to know, as part of teaching the kids, and presumably when you're talking about small game, you're talking birds,
partridge rabbits and grouse.
Yeah, partridge rabbits, exactly. So this is concerning rabbit hunting. I firmly believe that it would be really good to not encourage the next generation of hunters to kill rabbits with snares, and that snaring is not a humane kill at all. So
excuse me, ma'am, if I could interrupt, though, that's a different issue of what we're talking about here today, ma'am, and it doesn't have any impact. I'm not trying to be ignorant, ma'am.
It's one I've always wanted to do a phone-in on, so perhaps, I don't know, it seems like it's a big rabbit year this year, so perhaps this is our opportunity.
Well, no, Ramona, we did
later on, to do a show on it.
Yeah, no, the reason I'm bringing it up is it's connected because you're teaching. Look, I don't have a problem with kids being supervised, being taught how to properly use a weapon. That's not a problem for me as long as it isn't like what parents do with not supervising kids on the ATVs and the snowmobiles when they're supposed to be supervised. But if you're teaching children proper respect for animals, in my mind, proper respect and humane kill, we should be getting away from snaring. And yes, teach them how to shoot. That's it.
I'm going to leave it there. Thanks, Shayna. Like I say, I really do think there probably is an entire crosstalk on that question. And like I say, maybe this is with something we can get off the ground in the next couple of months. I think there would be a lot of interest in that one. The question that we're putting out there this afternoon, should the legal hunting age be dropped to 12 in Newfoundland and Labrador with supervision? That's what both my guests on the program this afternoon support. They are Wendell Smith in Corner Brook, the president of the Upper Humber Rod and Gun Association. He actually lives in Pasadena, but he's gone into our studio in Corner Brook this afternoon. And here with me in St. John's, Barry Fordham, who's a spokesperson for the Newfoundland Federation of Hunters and Anglers. Peter Emberley is our next caller, phoning in from St. John's. Hi, Peter.
Hi, how are you today?
Good. Would you lower the hunting age or leave it where it is?
I'm for lowering the hunting age 100%. I represent a group here in the province called Totally Outdoors NL, and I've been taking my son in the woods since since he can walk pretty much. And we started at doing small things, rabbit snaring. He's been fishing, and then of course by the time I guess he was turned 5 or 6, we picked up our first beagle and we broke it. And I remember when I shot my first rabbit over that dog, how excited both me and my son were. And he continued to come along with me, and of course he started getting bored with just walking through the woods and following me around. So by the time he was 12 or 13, he used to torture me to have a shot, I guess, at the rabbit when the dog would come along. So eventually I kind of gave in, and I guess when he was about 13 or 14, he shot his first rabbit. And he still remembers that to this day. He can almost tell you the time, where it was. He can point you to the rock that was by the rabbit. And another important thing that I found with him, as he's grown and matured in age, when Saturday would come and we'd be looking forward to going in the woods, Friday night, just picture this now, teenager, 14, 15, 16 years old, in the house on a Friday night, 9:30, 10 o'clock, getting his gear ready to go in the woods Saturday morning at daylight. You know, how many kids are Friday night comes, 14, 15, 16, you haven't got a clue where they're to. You don't know what they're at. And thank God, I guess, through being in the woods and through hunting, and I've never had a moment's trouble with him. He's never been in trouble with the law. He's never come home out of the way. And I honestly think that because him and I have been so close through hunting and being in the woods and fishing, that it's had a tremendously wonderful impact on his life.
Well, I want to thank you for sharing those stories with us, Peter. Thank you.
Okay, my love.
All right, Peter. Our next caller on Crosstalk today, Bob Rupert, phoning in from St. John's. Hi, Bob.
How are you?
Good. What do you think about lowering the legal hunting age from 16 to 12 with supervision?
Well, I think it's a terrible idea. And you know, the argument that I'm hearing from your obviously well-organized gun lobby and hunting lobby on the show today is...
so we're not a gun lobby group?
Oh, you're not, huh? Okay, you're a hunting lobby group, but you're talking about guns.
We're a conservation group, sir, called Newfoundland Federation of Hunters and Anglers. We are not a gun lobby group.
Yeah. You're jamming the switchboard. Anyway, I just want to point out that the argument that the way to make kids go into the woods and enjoy nature is to put a gun in their hands and tell them they can go ahead and shoot animals seems to me like a very strange way to make them identify with nature.
Yes, sir. What you're saying is not what we're saying, though, I believe.
No, it's certainly not what you're saying.
Wendell, would you like to respond to that?
I'm just fighting for words here on how to respond to that.
Well, just before you do, one of the two gentlemen there, I think, one of your callers maybe, tried to make the point that people who are opposed to this are hysterical and illogical and don't know what they're talking about.
That was me, sir, but it was not meant that way, and I did not say it that way.
Well, that's exactly.
You did refer to paranoia, though.
I did refer to the paranoia. Yes, I did.
Yeah. Well, I'm not paranoid, and I'm not against hunting, but telling people that they should put a gun in the hands of a 12-year-old kid anywhere, including in the bush, and say, now go.
We're only talking about in the bush, sir, in the country.
I beg your pardon?
We're only talking about out hunting in the country. We're not talking about giving a kid a gun anywhere. I think it's important to stipulate that we're talking about hunting and nothing else.
Yes, I know that. I just don't see that. Another caller said that he felt disappointed that he hadn't been able to have his kids go hunting with him, and now they're 30 and 26 or something, and they go hunting all the time. And he first tried to make the point that these kids were discouraged from hunting and going into the woods because they couldn't shoot the guns. Now they're 26 and 30, and they go, and he says they love it. So
yes, sir.
You don't have to put guns in the hands of younger kids.
He was saying that they accompanied him right at an early age and lost interest because they couldn't have hands-on experience, which is what we're saying, sir. And later on in life, then they chose to take that.
His kids sure didn't lose interest.
Sir, are you a hunter?
No, I'm not.
Okay, that's fine, and that's absolutely fine. I'm just curious to see what kind of viewpoint you. Yes, I am, sir.
Well, that's absolutely fine too.
Right on. But what we're saying though is that we have to separate the issue, and it's hunting, and it's not anything else but hunting.
Well,
in a controlled setting.
Separate guns out of the equation. If you go,
the firearm is part of hunting, sir. The firearm is part of the hunting situation. You can't take the firearm away from the hunting situation.
All right. What we're trying to do here
Go ahead, Wendell.
What we're trying to do here is give the kids some input and some experience in the woods at a young age so that they can develop those skills that are necessary so that when they come back after their years in college and university, they can come back to the hunting sports and bring those skills forward with them that they have learned. I'd much rather go into the woods hunting with a person who has grown up in a hunting environment at a young age and developed the skills at that young age and come back to the hunting activities later on in life than I would going into the woods with somebody who was 20 or 25 years old who done a course through the College of the North Atlantic or other institutes and was first time having a firearm in their hands and went into the woods with no experience in the hunting fields at all, I'd be much more in tune not to go with that particular person and go with the person who at a young age participated in those hunting activities.
All right, I'm going to leave it there to try to squeeze in one more caller. Bob, thank you for your call this afternoon, and let's see what Patricia Smith has to say. She's on the line from Conception Bay South. Hi, Patricia.
Hi,
you get the last word today.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
Good.
Good.
So, your thoughts?
My thoughts, I just wanted to give my opinion as a mother. I have a 13-year-old daughter who has been going in the woods with her father for, since she's about 5 years old. She absolutely loves it. She will walk for miles. She loves to fish. And the thing about it is she understands. She understands the ethical point of hunting. She understands the safety of hunting. She knows that if she went to kill an animal, she would still be sad, but she knows that it's food for the table. She knows that it's not just the thrill of the kill, it's for food, it's for, she's educated. And as a mother, if I didn't think that she was mature enough to handle that, and if she didn't have the education that she needed, I certainly wouldn't allow her to participate. Now, I'm not a hunter myself, but my husband is a very avid hunter. And I just wanted to give my way in as a mother, and as a non-hunter, because I just wanted it to be known that for people to generalize and say that 12-year-olds are not mature enough, that depends on the child. That depends on the person.
All right, and unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there, but I'm glad that you did get on the air this afternoon. Thanks, Patricia.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Call again sometime, will you? And thank you to our two guests on the program this afternoon. Obviously, we've had a lot of feedback on this show. We'll post it online as soon as we can, and it takes a while to get on the server because it's a big file, but it will be posted later on this afternoon. And you can find it on our website, cbc.ca/radionoonnl. And our thanks again to our guests on the program, Barry Fordham, a spokesperson for the Newfoundland Federation of Hunters and Anglers, and Wendell Smith, the president of the Upper Humber Rod and Gun Association. Thanks to everyone who sent in comments to @CBC Crosstalk. They are still pouring in. Now, tomorrow on the phone in, our guest is Nathan Whalen, the president of the Newfoundland and Labrador Federation of School Councils. And our question: should trustees with the Eastern School District have spent $10,000 on two parties last year? Looking forward to your thoughts. See you back then.